Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fly Me to the Philippines. For today's video, we are going to talk about the good Filipina. The way most men define the word good is often the exact reason they end up choosing the wrong woman. And they don't realize it until they're already emotionally invested, sometimes financially committed, and sitting there confused as hell about what went wrong. And by the time they notice it, the damage has already started. Hi, this is Chrissy, and what I'm about to say might make you a little uncomfortable, but it could save you years of confusion and a lot of unnecessary heartbreak. Rob and I talk to Western men almost every day in a week. Some are divorced, some widowed, most are retired, and some are just tired being invisible in their own countries and in their own relationships. And they all say the same thing to me. I just want a good Filipina. And I want you to know something very important. When a man says that, I don't hear entitlement. I hear longing. I hear a man who is tired of chaos, tired of cold relationships, tired of feeling like affection has to be earned, tired of walking on eggshells in his own home. I hear someone who will say, I really want peace, stability, warmth, and I want someone to come home to. I totally understand why you say it. I really do. But here's the part most men don't realize. That phrase, good Filipina, sounds simple, but it's loaded. Loaded with assumptions, loaded with misunderstandings. And those misunderstandings can quietly damage a relationship that actually had real potential. For a long time, I didn't question those assumptions either. When I was younger, I thought being a good Filipina meant exactly what I saw growing up and what I saw reflected back at me from foreign men. A woman who smiles easily, who doesn't argue, who adjusts, who doesn't ask for much, who doesn't challenge her man. The kind of woman who nods quietly and makes life feel easier. I tried to be that woman before, not because anyone forced me, but because I believe that that's the safest way to be loved. And I need to be honest with you here. That version of me wasn't peaceful. She was quiet. And those two things are not the same. Life eventually taught me something I wish more Western men understood before they ever got on that plane. She's not a stereotype. She's not a fantasy you can build to fit neatly into your dream of starting over. And here's the part that might sting a little. Sometimes what Western men think makes a woman good is the very thing that slowly damages the relationship. Rob and I have spoken privately with hundreds of men like you. And aside from that, we also talk before we go to sleep. We also have a heart-to-heart talk sometimes in our life. And what I really found about being open to each other is that you get the confidence, you get the trust to open up with him what you really want. What I really want is a Filipina. Do I really need to be just like this to be called good Filipina? Men who leaned forward when they asked, how do I find a good Filipina? Their voice is soft, hope in their eyes, but fear underneath it. Fear of choosing wrong again. Fear of being embarrassed. Fear of being taken advantage of. Fear of getting emotionally attached and discovering too late that they misunderstood something fundamental. I feel that fear every time, and I would say there is nothing wrong with wanting what you want. Filipinas are often caring, loyal, family-oriented, emotionally present in ways many men feel they lost in the West. Those values are real. We're raised to take relationships seriously, to endure, to stay, to care. When Western men admire that, it makes me proud of my culture. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes what a man imagines as a good Filipina isn't a real woman at all. It's a fantasy built out of relief, relief from past pain, relief from conflict, from feeling unwanted, unappreciated, like you didn't matter anymore. And I get it, but fantasies don't survive real life. Maybe you've experienced this already. You met a woman who seemed sweet, respectful, and grateful. She checked all your boxes. She did not argue. She didn't demand. She seemed happy just to be with you. And then something shifted. She became quieter, more distant, emotional in ways you didn't understand. And you found yourself thinking, what the hell went wrong? I thought she was a good girl. I've seen that moment more times than I can count. The unexpected. Things men never thought could happen. And here's the truth that surprises most men. It's often not that you chose a bad woman. It's that both of you misread each other while speaking the same language. That's why this video exists. Not to lecture you, not to shame you, not to scare you with horror stories. This is about the quiet misunderstandings, the subtle assumptions, the things that don't explode right away but slowly erode trust, attraction, maybe love, and emotional safety. The things that make two people wake up one day living together but feeling completely alone. This topic is personal for me because I am a Filipina and married to a Western man. And yes, Rob and I have a strong relationship, but we didn't get here because we magically understood each other. We had real moments. We had hard moments, challenges in our lives. We argued. We had disagreement. We have a lot of tough steps in our relationship that we went through. Moments where I thought, if only he understood why this matters to me. And the moments where he thought, I don't even know what I did wrong. So think of this not as advice, but as a conversation. Imagine we're sitting somewhere quiet. There's a breeze, life moving in the background. And I'm just being honest with you the way I'd want someone to be honest with me. And later on, I'm going to walk you through the biggest mistakes men make when they say they want a good Filipina. It's not to criticize, but to clarify, because if you get this right, everything else gets easier. And we need to start with the biggest myth that gets men into trouble faster than almost anything else. You know, I believe that most of the Western man has the idea that a good Filipina is naturally submissive. Darling, if you believe that, you're in for a surprise. Men will say, I'm done with Western women who argue. I just want peace. I want someone sweet, calm, easy to be with. I want a woman who doesn't challenge me. And I understand where that desire comes from. After a difficult marriage, after years of conflict, after feeling criticized or dismissed, the idea of someone agreeable feels like relief, like finally breathing. But here's the truth most men don't see at first. Quiet does not automatically mean happy. And going along is not the same thing as feeling okay inside. Let me tell you about a Filipina. I'll call her Jasmine. Jasmine is 30, married to John, who's 65 years old. When John talked to his friends about his wife, he sounded very, very proud, almost bragging. You know what? She never argues with me. She never says no. She just smiles and goes along. She takes care of everything. She cooks, she cleans the house. She is the perfect, obedient wife. He thought he'd won. But as he talked, something didn't sit right with me. So I asked Jasmine gently in private, are you happy? She smiled but has the teary eyes. And then she admitted something she kept for so long. She had been getting migraines, spending more time alone, sleeping more, laughing less. John sometimes interpreted like she was just shy or homesick or moody. But one night she broke down crying. Months of never saying no, months of always adjusting, months of always smiling. It had all piled up. She told him she was exhausted, lonely, that she felt like a helper, not a wife, that she didn't know how to speak up without feeling like she might lose him. That was the moment John realized something important. Her silence wasn't peace, it was pressure. Here's what many Western men don't understand. Many Filipinas are raised to be accommodating. We're taught to respect elders, to avoid confrontation, to keep harmony, especially with someone we love. We have a word for this, and this is what we call pakikisama. It means going along, smoothing things over, keeping the relationship stable. So yes, many Filipinas will initially defer. Not because they don't have opinions, not because they're weak, but because they value the relationship. They don't want to cause problems. They don't want to seem ungrateful. They don't want to risk losing you. Here's a mistake men make. They confuse accommodation with agreement. A woman who says okay is not always a woman who feels okay. A woman who goes along is not always a woman who feels heard. And when you reward that silence, when you reward that compliance, you unintentionally teach her something dangerous, that her needs don't matter, that her voice is risky, that love means enduring, not participating. Let me very clear. Many Filipinas are strong. They raised siblings, managed households, handled money, worked overseas, endured hardship long before they ever met you. So when you see sweetness, don't confuse it with fragility. And don't confuse kindness with weakness. Often she's carrying a lot quietly because she's been carrying things her whole life. And if you think you want a woman who never disagrees, who never pushes back, who never says no, be careful, because what you might end up with is a woman who stops showing up emotionally while still being there physically. Resentment builds quietly, like rust. You don't notice it until the structure starts to fail. True partnership means hearing her voice even when she disagrees, especially when she disagrees. I remember another Western husband. He told me he was shocked when his once shy Filipina started sharing opinions about a year into marriage. She questioned the budget, where they lived, even how often he went out drinking. At first, he felt threatened. He thought, this is not the woman I married. But when he actually listened, something shifted. He realized she was not changing. She was finally safe enough to be herself. Later he told me, I respect her more now. She's not just agreeing, she's in this with me. That's the difference. A good Filipina is not a quiet doll. If you define good as always silent, always smiling, always compliant, you're not seeing her true self. You're seeing a performance. And eventually that performance ends, either through honest conversation or through pain, distance, or even leaving. She is human. She loves deeply. She sacrifices. But she also needs to be heard. A relationship with a Filipina is not meant to be a one-man show with a silent sidekick. It's meant to be a partnership. So you ask yourself, honestly, do you really want a partner? Or do you want someone who never pushes back? Because those are not the same thing. And if you get this wrong, you don't just lose the relationship, you lose the woman inside it. Now, there's another reality that catches many men off guard. Because when you fall in love with a Filipina, you're not just choosing a woman, you're stepping into a family. And for many men, that changes everything. And that is where we're going next. There's something many Western men don't fully understand until they're already emotionally invested. When you fall in love with a Filipina, you're not just choosing a woman, you're stepping into a family. And for some men, that realization is exciting. For others, it's confusing. And for a few, it becomes the breaking point. In the West, independence is the goal. You grow up, you move out, you build your own life. Parents are proud when their kids stand on their own. Family support is optional. Personal freedom comes first. In the Philippines, family is not a phase. It's not something you outgrow. Family is the center, and family doesn't stop with parents and children. It includes the siblings, grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, sometimes even neighbors who feel like family. It's a living network, and when you love a Filipina, you enter that network, honey, whether you plan to or not. I remember a retired Western man, let's call him Mark. Mark married a Filipina in her 40s. kind, warm, deeply devoted to her family. At first, Mark thought it was charming. There was always something happening, a birthday, a graduation, a family meal, church, someone stopping by. He laughed and said, "I feel like I married a whole barangay." But over time, the constant activity started to wear on him. He was used to quiet, privacy, clear boundaries. Then one day, his wife mentioned they needed to help pay for her niece's school tuition, and Mark reacted without thinking. "Why are we paying for your niece? I married you, not your family." The moment the words left his mouth, he knew he had hurt her. Her face changed. She didn't argue. She didn't raise her voice. She just went quiet. And then she explained. Her niece's father had died years earlier. Before Mark, she had already been helping. It wasn't a large amount, a few thousand pesos a month, less than many men spend on weekend entertainment. But to her, this wasn't optional. It was responsibility. It was loyalty. It was love. Mark told me later that the conversation shifted something in him. He realized she wasn't being taken advantage of. She wasn't being careless with money. She was honoring her role inside her family. And by marrying her, he had joined that reality. For many Filipinas, being a good daughter, a good sister, a good aunt is part of being a good person. And helping family is not seen as weakness. It's honor. We call it utang na loob, a debt of gratitude to the people who raised us, who fed us, and sacrificed for us. So when a Western man expects his Filipina to cut off her family, detach emotionally, or choose him over everyone else, he's asking her to betray something core to who she is. Now, let me be very clear. This does not mean you say yes to everything. It does not mean you fund every request. It does not mean you ignore your own limits. Boundaries matter. Budgets matter. Communication matters. But if you assume that you're being used before resentment sets in, before anger takes over, you need context. You ask questions. Who is this person to you? What happened? How long has this been going on? Most of the time, there is a real story. I've seen relationships end because men jump to conclusions. One man demanded his girlfriend stop sending money to her mother. He assumed it was a test, a scam, a red flag. But in reality, her mother needed monthly medication. When he forced the issue, she ended up the relationship. Not because she didn't love him, but because she couldn't be with someone who didn't understand what family meant to her. The men who thrive in these relationships, the ones with stable, happy marriages, are not the men who fight family ties. They participate wisely. They show up, they observe, they learn names. They sit on a plastic tables, taste unfamiliar food, smile even when they feel out of place, and in return, they gain something rare. A family that watches over them, protects them, defends them, includes them. For men who have felt alone, divorced, estranged, or forgotten, this can be deeply grounding. And yes, it can be very loud and it can feel overwhelming, but with clear communication and firm but respectful boundaries, that family does not weaken your relationship. It strengthens it. Remember this, when you love a Filipina, her family comes with her. That does not mean she loves you less. It means her heart is large. And if you respect that, if you don't compete with it, you earn something invaluable. Her trust, loyalty, and her deepest respect. Now, there's one more place where even good relationships quietly fall apart. And if you miss that, everything else starts to unravel. This is where many good relationships quietly start to break down. Not because of cheating, not because of money, not because of bad intentions, but because of communication. You may be speaking the same language, but you are often speaking very different meanings. Have you ever asked your Filipina, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm fine." But something felt off. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Her voice was softer than usual. Her energy had shifted. Or you asked her opinion, where to eat, where to go, what to do, and she smiled and said, "It's up to you," leaving you unsure and confused, maybe even a little frustrated. This is where cultures collide, and most Western men don't even realize it's happening. In Filipino culture, we avoid direct confrontation, especially with someone we love. We don't like embarrassing people, and we don't like creating tension. We don't like causing discomfort. So instead of saying no directly, you may hear, maybe, we'll see, I'll think about it. Often with a smile, we assume you'll feel the meaning, not just hear the words. But many Western men take words literally. She said she's fine, so she's fine. And that's where misunderstanding begins. That's where hurt quietly builds. Now, let me share something personal. Early in my marriage, there was a night I was hurt. Rob said something that offended me because I'm still adjusting, observing, and learning. I did not confront him. He asked, "Are you okay?" And I smiled and said, "I'm fine." But inside, I felt sad. I felt unimportant and asking myself, why would he say that to me? I expected him to feel it, to notice the silence, the distance, the way I turned away. But he didn't. He took my words at face value and went to sleep. And that night, I lay awake thinking, if he really knew me, he'd know I'm not okay. And the next day, I finally told him. Not yelling, not accusing, just honest. And he looked shocked. "But you said you were fine." "I can't read your mind. If something's wrong, you have to tell me." And that moment changed everything. I learned something very important. He wasn't being careless. He was being respectful of what I said. And he learned something too, that sometimes my words were softer than my feelings. A Filipina may quietly tolerate something because she doesn't want to nag, or seem demanding, or difficult. Maybe you joke about her cooking and she laughs. So you assume it's fine, but inside, it hurts. She's trying her best and it feels like you don't appreciate it. Maybe she wishes that you were more affectionate in public, holding hands, a kiss on her forehead. And she won't demand it. She'll just hope you notice. And on the other side, Western men can be very direct without meaning harm. You've gained weight. The dress is not flattering. Your English is getting better. To him, it's just honesty. To her, it can sting deeply. Because in our culture, we soften those words, or we don't say them at all. If you come home late without explaining, she probably won't yell. She won't demand answers, but you may notice she's quieter. Her replies are shorter. That's her signal. She was worried, or she was hurt, or felt disrespected. And here's the danger. When these signals are missed again and again, the man thinks everything is fine. She never complains. She keeps smiling. But meanwhile, the Filipino quietly collects hurt like stones in a jar, one at a time, until one day, the jar is full and it spills over. I've met men who were completely blindsided when their gentle Filipina suddenly cried or packed her bags or said, "I can't do this anymore." They said, "We never fought. Everything seemed perfect. Where did this come from?" And to my Filipino sisters, of course, we also have work to do. Our partners didn't grow up reading subtle cues. They value clarity. When both of you meet in the middle, something changes. Fewer misunderstandings, more emotional safety, and more closeness. Now, after everything we've talked about, the myths, the family, and the communication, it's time to talk about what a good Filipina actually is. Because it's not what most men think, and understanding this can change everything. A good Filipina is not the quietest woman in the room. She is not the one who never disagrees, who never asks for anything, who makes herself smaller so your life feels easier. That version is not good. That version is exhausted. A truly good Filipina is emotionally present. She loves deeply, she commits seriously, she shows loyalty through actions and not words. She values family because she understands responsibility. She respects you, but she does not disappear in the relationship. She can be gentle and still have limits. She can be sweet and still have opinions. She can support you without surrendering herself. And here's the part many Western men miss. A good Filipina is not low maintenance. She is high integrity. She will give more than she asks for, but she still needs to feel safe, chosen, and emotionally secure. If you mistake good for easy, you will lose her. If you mistake silence for happiness, you will lose her. If you mistake gratitude for obligation, you will lose her. The men who succeed in these relationships are not the richest. They are not the youngest. They are not the most dominant. They are the men who slow down, who listen without trying to fix everything, who don't panic when a woman expresses a need, who understand that love here is not transactional, it is relational. And now I need to say something very clearly. Not every Filipina who looks too good to be true is lying, but many men lose clarity when desires takes over. Beauty, sweetness, admiration, those things can short-circuit judgment. That's when men rush. That's when they ignore inconsistencies. That's when they invest emotionally before they understand who she really is. This is why we always say, slow down, watch patterns, not promises. Consistency matters more than charm. And this is also why we build the tools we offer. If you're early in a relationship and something doesn't quite add up, timeline shift, stories change, social media doesn't match what you're being told, that's where my open source social media investigation exists. Not to accuse, not to embarrass, not to control, but to verify reality before emotions and money get entangled. It's quiet, it's ethical, it's factual, it's moral, and it has saved a lot of good men from very expensive lessons. If you're serious about doing this right, that service exists for a reason. And for men who want guidance beyond one decision, we offer a one-on-one consultations. There's a free 10-minute meetup and greet so we can see if you're even a fit. And for those who want ongoing perspective, context, and someone to sanity check decisions, there's our Big Brother and Little Sister Platinum program. No pressure, no scripts, just experience. And finally, if you're still early in this journey and want a solid foundation, our book, A Western Man's Guide to Dating in Asia and the Philippines, is available as a free PDF for a limited time. It covers the things most men learn the hard way. Slowly, painfully, expensively, and all the links are below. Take your time. Don't rush your heart faster than your understanding. A good Filipina does not complete you. She complements a man who is already grounded, aware, and emotionally steady. If you become that man, you won't have to chase, you won't have to guess. You'll recognize her when she shows up, and she'll recognize you too. And always remember, if you're planning to come here in the Philippines, you must fly smart, fly with confidence, fly with Rob and Chrissy, only here from Fly Me to the Philippines.